Hey yogis, Kit Kat here. Today we are going to work on Trkonasana. So this little tutorial is going to give you a few tips and tricks to get in and out of the shape and make it more accessible for you. A really top tip when you're working through your asana is if you don't have a full-length mirror that you're working in front of, set yourself up with a video and a tripod, and that way you can see as you're moving through and making your own adjustments if you're working a home practice, where those adjustments are, and if you're listening to alignment cues, you can see how those alignment cues actually impact you during your practice or how you make those adjustments of your practice. And it's a really great tip for making those personal improvements if you're working from home. So just let go of the ego aspect of it, or that you have to see yourself on video, and look at it from a more practicable perspective, because it can be super duper helpful. So let's get started on our Trkonasana shape. Lots of ways to come into this pose. Warrior 2, Warrior 1, transitions from standing and balancing, and you'll experience them all as you continue your yoga journey. Today we're going to start in Tadasana, so mountain pose or Samasthiti at the top of the mat. And to enter into the shape, I'm simply going to lift my left knee to Ekapada Tadasana, sweep that left foot behind and place it about 4 foot from my front foot. So, in terms of foot placement, my heel is roughly in line with the center of the arch here. So if I was to drag this foot back and scrumple my mat, you'll find that that heel comes directly in there. So taking that back to that 3 or 4 foot apart. My back left foot I've got at about 45 degrees. So we don't want both heels turning in, and we don't want it to be flat here. A slight turn, so you're angling that heel towards the back right corner of the mat. So that's your 45 degrees. One of the things that we're working on in this shape is external rotation of the femur. So that external rotation, meaning that femur bone is finding that rotation towards the back of the mat in this shape. And so this is working on our hip mobility. And if we're pushing ourselves into the shape or using force, then we would work on our hip opening flexibility. So here in this shape, we're actually working mobility. So the body is allowing itself or working with itself to open up into the space. Coming into this space, we want the hips to be, as we start the posture, in the center, directly in between, right in the middle of our 2 feet. And as we move into the shape, we're going to work through some hip adjustments there. Grounding and connecting the feet into the floor is super important. So I'm working a Pada Bandha here, so you can see my toes lifting off the earth, and that's finding that grounded connection. I can roll my feet around and find the most stable place for my body in this shape. As I find that grounded connection into the earth, you're going to start to draw up, so lifting the kneecaps and lifting the quadriceps. And as you're doing this, you can feel that slight posterior tilt of the pelvis, which means you're going to engage the core. So thinking back to some of the core work that we've done this week, where we're isolating the abdominal muscles and drawing them towards the spine and the back body. So you've got that core activation. One of the next things that you're going to feel as you work a little deeper into this pose is the activation of the adductors, which is the muscle on the inside of the thigh here. And to activate that, we feel the energy drawing up through the inside of the leg here and up through the inside of the thigh. And it's that inside of the thigh action in combination with all those other things that we just talked about, core strength, external rotation, slight posterior tilt of the pelvis, that's going to help work that external rotation here, and you're going to feel that energetic lift. And what that does is create a super stable foundation for you to work from. So even just standing here in this variation of Trkonasana can be a super challenge. Me talking to you right now just about some of those actions and activating that within this shape myself, I'm starting to break a sweat. So, but I am in Bali, so yeah, and it's pretty humid here at the moment. So moving right along, our arms. It's an inhale and a lift to shoulder height arms. The right hand is extending as far away from that shoulder socket as it can, and the left hand is going in the opposite direction towards the back side of your mat. What you want to create here is as much space between the shoulder blades as you can. So again, in order for that to happen, you've got this beautiful stable base, the activation of the core, and even the ribs here, even though we feel this knitting of the floating ribs together, we're creating space and length through the back body. So this is our port of call, like that first starting spot for our Trkonasana. So you can stay here and play in this space, or you can start to move forward into a deeper expression of the pose. So in order to come a little deeper, I'm going to reach forward with my right hand as far, far, far away as I can. Now you can see that as I've done this, I've got my Saturday Night Disco hips on, and my left hip is being sent to the back of my mat. I still have this huge reach where I'm creating space in the shoulder blades, but what I have done is I've kept my heart open in this spot, and I'm reaching as far towards the front of my mat as I can. As I exhale a breath, I'm going to lift my left hand and allow the right hand to float down to the mat. So one of the goals with our triangle pose is to keep as much space underneath this, from this right hip joint into the armpit as possible, creating another triangle in this section here. So this is why this movement of reaching as far as you can and creating all of this space under that right side is so important. Now, this is a pretty challenging space to stay in. So if you're a first cab off the rank, grab a hold of your shin, and you can even drop the hand to the waist and use that to lift the heart space and open up underneath this right side of the body. You're still going to have the active core, so you can feel some length coming into the back body, and you can stay here and hold this shape. And as you start to feel more comfortable, maybe lift that left arm up to the sky and eventually turn the gaze towards the sky. So if you're working a little deeper into the expression of full expression of triangle, you can start to reach that right hand down towards the big toe and that long toe right next door to it, and still turning the head. Inhale, coming up to center. So to get to the other side, I'm simply going to turn my toes in and turn my left foot out. So when you're migrating from side to side, or if you're indeed moving from another shape into Trkonasana, don't be afraid to readjust the feet. Maybe the length needs, or the distance between your feet needs to change on this side. We're all shaped differently, so don't be afraid to find what that best shape is for you. Look down, check the alignment of your feet so that you've got those in the right place for you today, and start to work on some of those small adjustments that we were looking at before. So find your Pada Bandha, glue the feet down into the earth, and start to lift the kneecaps and the quadriceps. Start to lift through the inside of the thighs, feel a little bit of that external rotation in the hips, drawing the belly into the spine and feeling a slight pelvic tilt. So that pelvic tilt, or posterior tilt of the pelvis, means we've got that little tuck happening here. And it comes about from a shortening of the distance between the ribs and the hips as you activate the core. So here we are in this with our solid foundation. I'm going to inhale and lift the arms out to the side. Again, I'm just checking my shape, making sure that I'm creating as much space between the scapula as I can. Inhaling, exhaling, finding that steadiness and ease, Trkonasana in this shape. With my inhale breath, I'm going to reach forward, reach as far, far forward as I can, so I'm creating as much space underneath my left side body. And as I exhale, bringing the hand down towards the ankle and reaching my right hand up high. So again, if I want to find a little bit more length there, I'm going to use that hand onto the shin, apply some pressure to the shin. I can adjust the shape. So eventually we want to find ourselves between two panes of glass. Now that can be quite a challenging alignment cue for a lot of us, and certainly it was for me. So placing the hand on the shin allows me to find some external rotation in this bottom leg, open my heart space to the sky, draw the belly in towards the spine so I'm still creating length, and find and challenge my alignment here until I feel like I've opened, what we call opening the shape. And I can take another few breaths here, and that feels quite good. Turning my head back down towards the earth, taking an inhale breath as I lift back up. Turning my toes to the front, eventually back to the right side of my mat, and coming back to Tadasana. So that is a little tutorial on Trkonasana this morning. So there are a number of variations of Trkonasana. You can do it with super wide legs. You can do it, if you're in a Bikram class, it gets done with a bent knee, which if you're an Ashtanga Vinyasa practitioner is called wide side angle pose. In Bikram they call it triangle pose. There are a million different variations, and as you go through and learn with different teachers and different styles of yoga, you're going to hear different things. So the key is to always go with a beginner mind and listen to those alignment cues. And you're not always ready to hear them. Sometimes you're just ready and something is like a light bulb moment, it clicks for you. If we always go to our practice with a beginner mind and being open to some of those cues, you're going to hear and the body is going to respond to those cues and allow you to go into a deeper expression of the shape. Yogis, have a fantastic day playing with your Trkonasana or triangle pose, and I will see you on the next tutorial. Namaste.